Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Very good. Not doing great. Is that okay? My allergies have been pretty bad. Does anyone else have allergies? Have you kicked it in? Yeah, it's pretty bad. I've been told that this year is going to be worse than like ever, which is what I was told last year. Just progressively getting worse, but because of it, it's kind of hard. My throat is scratchy, and so I'm really lucky that I have the minister's assistants, youth minister's assistants to help me out. Last week, Marissa and Keith were able to help me out with the Chocho and the Dharma talk, and today Kelvin, but I gotta do the Dharma talk, so you gotta bear with me about my coughing and stuff. Okay. Well, that's not it. Oh, okay. All right. So, I had mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I was going to do something on Harry Potter, and then I nixed it because it wasn't child-friendly. So I've come up with another one. And then the child-friendly one I'll do in the discussion afterwards today. So, how many of you have seen all of the Harry Potter films? Okay. Maybe half, more than half? How many have read all the books? Okay. How many of you would be upset if I spoiled some of the endings of some of them? Okay, maybe you could like earmuffs or something. So, in Harry Potter, we have two pretty important characters. Who's this?
Harry!
He is the most important person in this series because it's named after him. But he's also our hero, right? He's the good guy. He's the person that everything kind of revolves around. We also have this guy. What was that? Oh, very good. Yeah, he must have a name. A.K. Voldemort, who is also that guy. So we have our good guy and our bad guy. And essentially throughout the books, we figure out this kind of struggle that they go through between what we think is good and evil. And so we learn about both of them. Of course, we learn about Harry Potter very early on in the early books, and later on, we begin to learn about Voldemort and his past. And what we realize is actually that between the two of them, they have a good amount of similarities in their upbringing. So their similarities, they are both half-bloods, which means that they have one parent which is a wizard and one parent which is a muggle. And a muggle is someone who is not a wizard. I guess like a regular human, right? Is that okay? Does anyone have a better definition of a muggle? No, very good. Not only are they both half-bloods, but they're also both orphans. So when Dumbledore finds Voldemort, he's in an orphanage, and Harry Potter, when he gets taken to Hogwarts, he's living with his aunt and uncle and their family. But he too is an orphan, as his parents were lost when he was very young. And so, because of this, they were both also raised by muggles. Voldemort in the orphanage. They did not have a fun childhood. Harry Potter's childhood was one that was very uncomfortable because his aunt and uncle didn't make his life very easy. They didn't really want to take care of him. And they were both thought to be very odd. They showed these magical powers at a very young age, and because of that, they were essentially bullied. People didn't like them, they thought that they were different, and so they made fun of them because of it. Then eventually they went to Hogwarts. But, of course, there are these differences as well between the two of them. The most important being probably their nose. But actually, well, so Harry Potter had two parents which really loved him. and they were able to care for him, at least for a very small period of his life, when he was very young. And because of that, Harry Potter was allowed to survive through the love of his mother when Voldemort came to come get them. I hope that doesn't spoil anything. But the difference is that Voldemort, I don't know how many people know this one, but Voldemort, growing up, his father abandoned his family after he realized that his mother was pregnant, and then his mother passed away shortly after she gave birth. So he grew up without ever knowing his parents, and was only knew the orphanage where he didn't really get that sense of love. And because of that, Voldemort had this need to feel special and better than everyone else, whereas Harry Potter felt the need to be part of something. So Voldemort never really found the need to have connections, meaningful connections with people, to have any kind of love in his life, and never actually really learned how to love or how to be loved, whereas Harry Potter had that opportunity. So because of that, Harry Potter had friends. Look how happy he looks. They're all laughing, and then Voldemort, who is Tom Riddle at this point in his life, is just super emo. Got the emo haircut and everything. How many people understood what that meant? Hey, okay, all right. So yeah, he was very emo, whereas Harry Potter was very happy. And then going on, as they grew up and they began to show their intelligence, show their ability to really have a group of people follow them, they became a leader versus like a tyrant. So Harry Potter was always constantly putting himself in danger, never wanted to endanger anyone else. He was always thinking about other people's well-being, whereas Voldemort was always ready to send other people to do the dirty work because he didn't care, he only cared about himself. What I wanted to go with all of this, the similarities and the differences, is that even though they had very similar backgrounds, there was this one important difference that allowed them to take very different paths in life. But who's to say that if one was given one set of circumstances and the other, if they switched, that they wouldn't end up being exactly the same? That if Voldemort had love very early on in his life, that he wouldn't be Harry Potter, and that if Harry Potter didn't have that love in his life, that he would grow up to be Voldemort. Did I lose everybody, or? No? Okay, all right. That was good, right? Yes, I got the thumbs up, all right, okay. Now, within Buddhism, we're always constantly searching for the truth. This is the path that Buddhism is, that we're always looking for the truth. The reason that we have suffering in our lives is because we're unable to see it. We can't see the complete truth. We only have this very small truth that we have for ourselves, and that's why we always have this suffering. This also applies to people, that we always are suffering because we don't know everyone else's truth. Unfortunately, our lives aren't like movies. We don't have a narrator telling us stuff. We don't see the backstory behind somebody's life. We only have everything that we're able to take in with our own sight, our senses, whatever it is. We aren't able to really see the world from another person's point of view. And for that reason, we're unable to see the truth. So we get this suffering from other people. How many people have suffered because of other people? Wow, not that many people. Incredibly enlightened group. Very good. So for those of us that are suffering because of other people, the reason why we suffer is because we don't really understand the person's circumstances. The people who seem to be annoying or mean to us, we don't know where that's coming from. We don't know what's happened in their life that they feel like they need to be a certain way. And so because of that, we start to feel like they're being mean to us personally, that it's something because of us that they feel like they want to make us uncomfortable. However, if we're able to really step back and take a bigger view, to realize that we don't know where the other person's coming from, to realize that someplace that they're coming from might be influencing the way that they're acting to us, then it starts to lessen our suffering because it becomes understanding. We understand that people who are hurting are the ones that hurt, and because of that, we can start to let go of our personal feelings of anxiety, of hurt, and realize that this other person is the one that really needs all of the love. So it goes back to this idea that this difference between the two people is that one of them had love in their life and the other one didn't. But by realizing that the people who need the love the most are the ones like Voldemort, then we can start to open up our minds to understanding, realizing the circumstances that they have might not have been as good as ours, and to meet that with that kind of love. I know it's very difficult because the people who make us the most unhappy are usually, they're usually the ones that make us well up those emotions that make it hard to love. But having that kind of understanding is what is able to, what gives us that ability to get through that and eventually start to show them that love. There's an interesting saying that I found that when we have anger with somebody and we try to hurt them, it's like grabbing a hot coal and trying to throw it at them. The person who ends up getting burned is ourselves. So what we have to do is learn to let go of all that anger, so eventually we can start to reach that point of love. That's when our own suffering stops and we can help to ease the suffering of others. If you please join me in Gasho. Namo Mido. Namo Mido.